Hey y'all, it's October. Um, wow. I think maybe I've been doing the video recaps for a year now. That's exciting. That's fun. So, let me check and make sure that it's a year. Do 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 do. Cue elevator music. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Yep, yep, October 2019. It's a whole year. Looks like I read 14 books in the month of September, because that's the month we're recapping, September. Currently in the month of October, I've already read one book in October. That's a book about Christmas, a very merry holiday movie guide. I'll insert a clip of it. I enjoyed it. That was a 4 stars. But anyway, that's October, not September. So let's get to September. The first book I finished, these are all books I finished in the month of September. First book I finished in the month of September was Backyard Pharmacy Mini by Elizabeth Millard. Millard? Millard. This was a mini edition of uh, the full size book edition version, which was Backyard Pharmacy Growing Medicinal Plants in Your Own Backyard, I believe. It being a mini edition, obviously there's some things you're missing out on. But I really enjoyed the book regardless, and I gave it a 4 stars. So if you're into plants, if you're into using plants for medicinal purposes, and you're not looking for a super thick tome that you're gonna, have to spend thick time on, and you're just looking for a quick, what can I use with this? Quick, quick, quick. What can I use with this? I'd say this is your book. This is a book you could consider. So, next book I finished in the month of September was Wonderland by, I don't know if it's Zoe, Zoje, Zoje, Stage. I don't know if it's Stage or Stage. I don't. Well, there's no accent. We're gonna go with Zoe Stage. Wonderland. I gave this 3 stars. I kept reading the book, and I'm like, okay, I could see this as a movie, but it'd be a movie I was like a bit upset with at the end because I felt like the book didn't go into much detail about the mechanics of the supernatural stuff that was happening. Basically, mother and her family moved to new home in rural upstate New York or something, and supernatural hijinks ensue. And I I gave it 3 stars. I gave it 3 stars. Next book I finished in the month of September was Tiny Nightmares. It was an anthology that was edited by Lincoln Michael or Michelle. Apologies on the mispronunciation. And Najeli Nieto. It was a bunch of little short stories. Um, meant to be horrific in the vein of horror. Um, and then they were broken up thematically by like parts of the body. Um, I give this a 4 stars, and overall I enjoyed it, but there were just a lot of stories that were just like, what, what. But I thought it was a really good read for what it was, being a bunch of short stories, short horror stories. So I enjoyed it, but I was a bit confused by some of those short stories. So I gave it a 4 stars. Next book I finished in the month of September was The Socialist Awakening, What's Different About the Left by John B. Judas. I gave this 3 stars. I'm all in my personal journey wanting to learn more about socialism and different political thoughts. Um, but this one felt very heavily Bernie Sanders focused, and I know just from the scholars I follow on my Twitter that modern socialism, is too vast and too broad, especially the North American school of thoughts. Um, with just the American school of thought, to be so heavily attributed to Bernie Sanders. So that was awkward for me. I gave this 3 stars. I was exposed to a lot of stuff, and I think I recommend it. Um, but maybe not to everybody. I recommend it, maybe not to everybody. Um, I think maybe some people would have the same issues I would, but also like I'm not just gonna give someone a book on socialism and expect them to love it. They have to be open to it. So this book was not the book to be like, here, let me convert you to socialism. No, this is a book for people who are either familiar in vague sense with socialism and maybe support it, I think. Or trying to look for a historical context for it. But it's mostly in the context of the United States and the United Kingdom. So anyway, um, that was the next book, or I guess the 4th book I finished in September. The next and 5th book I finished in September was The Deadly Hours by Susannah, Kearsley, C.S. Harris, Annalie Huber, and Christine Trent. It was an anthology. 4 stories by the 4 respective authors. What I didn't expect was that it was, because again, you request a book, you get approved, you forget what the book's about when you start reading it. What I didn't expect was that it was going to be 4 stories, 4 different timelines, all interconnected. And I really enjoyed that. I was very surprised. I think once the second story hit, and it was like, oh, it's a whole continuation. I was like, okay, you got me. I'm invested. I'm in this now. So I gave it 4 stars. But a lot of it is, it's I don't know, I don't know if you call it Victorian England, or it's just very historical fiction. It's very what you expect of historical fiction. So 4 stars. Next book I finished in the month of September was Murder Bears, Moonshine, and Mayhem by Luke T. Harrington, and the subtitle is Strange Stories from the Bible to Leave You Amused, Bemused, and Hopefully Informed. I gave this 4 stars. I think maybe around like the 3rd-ish chapter is really when I got going for me, when I really started to really enjoy the book. Um, the Bible is a wondrous book of a wide variety of adventures, spanning many literary genres, if you will. Um, so with this book, we're looking at some of the most horrific, scandalous, ridiculous stories. And I really took them and interpreted them from a very modern viewpoint. Not so much a very traditional conservative, well, women shouldn't, it was very much like, no, this was a rape. This was a murder. Was this justified? So it was done in a very humorous tone, so I enjoyed it. 4 stars for me. I enjoyed it. Yes. Next book I finished in the month of September was The Spiritual Poems of Rumi, a translation by Nader Kalili. This was the first book of poems from Rumi that I've ever read, to my recollection. Really the first exposure to Rumi's work. So that was interesting. I think I had to get a taste for it with this first book. And maybe it wasn't the most, I felt like this was more maybe friendship feeling than outright spiritual, but also depending on who you are, friendship is a part of spirituality. Friendship is a way to express spiritual connection. So okay. I gave this 3 stars. I have no basis for contrast. This being the first book for Rumi that I've read, I have no basis for contrast with other translations. I don't know how creative, how freely away from the original this was translated or not. But going off of what I've read, I enjoyed it. I do wish that this book had annotations just so I could learn more about Rumi or what maybe the specific poem was about. But maybe, that's not the case available for poems. It seems like Rumi wrote so many poems, so I don't imagine that will be the case. He's writing, oh, well, this story, I don't think that's the case. But, even historical from an outsider, not necessarily poem specific, but just I would have liked to learn more about Rumi in the book. So 3 stars for that one. The next book I finished in the month of September was a graphic novel called Plutocracy by Abraham Martinez. And with a title like Plutocracy, and this whole thing of, oh, it's a future world where one giant company runs the world, you thought it was going to be this deep, delving, hard-hitting political commentary. It didn't feel like that. It didn't feel like that at all. I gave it 3 stars. I liked the animation style, but the story was a lot lacking for me, so I gave it 3 stars. I am so gassy today. I don't know why. The next book I finished in the month of September was actually my second book by Rumi, The Love Poems of Rumi by Rumi. Again, still translated by Nader, Kalili. So I think actually I saw this one first, and I was like, that looks interesting. I like the cover more for whatever reason. It's essentially the same color though, but I like this color more. And I guess I requested both of them at the same time, I think it was. But I liked this one more. This being my second exposure of collections of poems to Rumi's. I don't know, I guess maybe I felt a little more hip to his writing style. I don't know. I just know I connected more with the poems in this one, and this, again, for me, felt more spiritual than love poem. But again, spirituality is not just very rigid structure to love, friendship. Spirituality takes a lot of different forms, means a lot of different things. So I enjoyed this one more than the spiritual poems, but I think I really needed to have read the spiritual poems first. I think I would actually like to have both of them together. And I know there's a third book of Rumi's that's coming out that's a translation of Nader Kalili. I don't recall what it is. I will put a picture of it somewhere. I didn't read the other book because I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm set with Rumi for now. But I enjoyed this one, and I gave it 4 stars. Yes. The next book I finished in the month of September was Most Beautiful Job in the World by Julia Mensitieri. This was a translation of a thesis, and it was translated by Natasha Lair, and the original was Le Plus Beau Métier du Monde. This was a really interesting look at the behind the scenes of specifically the labor of the fashion industry. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Actually, it was a really good book. I consider myself someone who enjoys fashion. I enjoy fashion. I like making things to wear. I like making sweaters. I like sweaters, period. But I didn't think about, besides underpaid seamstresses, which is, and obviously the environmental effects of fashion, which I think are the most visible negatives of fashion. I didn't think about all of this overworking, devaluation of physical skill for this eliteness of creative skill. And then even within the creative skill, it's still a devaluation. It's a weird hierarchical structure. I don't know. This book was very eye-opening. And it did make me think twice about what role I play personally in promulgating images, as the book would like to put this image, this dream of an elite, of an elite that fashion aims to get to. So I really enjoyed the book. I gave it 5 stars, and I do recommend it. So the next book I finished in the month of September was Deep Space by Robert Harvey. Oh my goodness, the photography. It was just, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It was beautiful. yeah. Nebulas and galaxies and I guess just stars and a lot of stars in general, all other stuff were mentioned. But I used to be so passionate about space, and I really did think when I was younger that my future career would be in the astrophysical sciences. Um, I don't like physics, so that was a big no. I love chemistry though. Um, but this just brought back a lot of joys about thinking about space or the love of space. It just really, you know, wow. Um, used to be very into um, constellations and whatnot. But anyway, this is a great book. The photography was great. The little blurs that went along was great. Um, was it? I think there's one. Is it a galaxy or there's three galaxies that are converging that may create a what is it? A triple black hole? I think it was called. It's three galaxies that are merging that might create might merge into three, I guess, poles, or I guess maybe it's gonna be is it ternary black hole, but first it's gonna create a binary black hole is the idea. I think it's NGC 6240. I think it is. I'll insert a clip or something. But just a lot of science that is just wild, and it's just like space is wild. We are really tiny here. We are tiny and insignificant, but it just puts you in awe of everything. So, I gave this 5 stars, um, as well. So, the next book I read, finished in the month of September was Jewish, a cookbook by Jake Cohen. Jake Cohen, the author, really conveys how he identifies, or his Jewish identity, the extent to which it's religious, secular, the ethnic influences of the different parts of the Jewish diaspora. So I thought that was really good. I really felt like I was in his life story, or at least his adult married life story. Um, in terms of the recipes, I'm not necessarily super inspired by any of them. I'm more inspired by some of the ingredients he mentioned. Um, yeah, but I enjoyed it, so I gave it 4 stars. So the next book I finished in the month of September was The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. This one was weird because I really enjoyed the writing style. I enjoyed how I found myself surprisingly invested in the story. It wasn't like this crazy writing style, but just the way it flowed was really well, and it felt well. Um, I gave this a 4 stars, but the story was like, what? Again, I like my mechanics of my sci-fi, of my supernatural explained, um, you know, laid out right. That's not something you get here. I guess you get enough of it, and I wouldn't necessarily consider it horror, um, but I enjoyed it. It was a fun read. It was a good read. I would recommend it, and I gave it 4 stars. And then the last book I read apparently in September. Oh wait a minute, no. Oh, whoops a daisy. I did not finish 14 books. I finished 13 in the month of September. The 14th book, I forgot all about this, was really like hours after we got into October because, it's a couple hours left in September, and I said, let me look at my new books I have to download. I saw one book look short. I was like, it looks like I could knock this out. And maybe had I just, been doing it straight, been reading straight, maybe I could have, but I didn't. Um, so I finished that 14th book, the book I thought was 14th, in October. That's The Preserve by Ariel S. Winter, but I'll talk about that more in this month's recap, which should come out in November. So, Anyway, thanks for watching. 13 books, really well. Happy about that. I think I have on my NetGalley less than 30. Hopefully, I can finish at least two or three this week. Um, yeah, I have some older books I really need to get around to finishing. Um, but yeah, 13 books is fun. It's October. The world is still really wild. When has the world not been wild? But anyway, thanks for watching. If you've read any of these books, let me know. Yeah, I think that's about it I have to say for now. So until next time, bye bye.